Kowski and Ranking Member Bilirakis for holding this hearing, and thank you to the witnesses for appearing here today. This hearing is imperative to exploring the parts of big tech that could be negatively impacting the social fabric of our country and harming the well-being of Hoosiers and all Americans. I'm increasingly concerned with the growth at any cost mindset of Silicon Valley, which has been around for a long time, as we heard last week. Social media platforms monetize inflammatory content using opaque algorithms and tactics intended to manipulate the tendency of its users. This information allows big tech platforms to sell highly valued advertising space for precisely placed ads at the most optimal times. If profit is the ultimate goal, and there's nothing wrong with making money, one way to get there is to gin up users by promoting content that elicits the strongest responses. This creates a feedback loop of more clicks that lead to more data, which leads to smarter algorithms that can collect even more data. These efforts seem to work in conjunction with the expansive shield of Section 230 to evade accountability. For big tobacco, warning labels plastered on the side of a pack of cigarettes served as a long-time immunity defense. For big tech, it is Section 230. And much like big tobacco, tech companies use these same tactics on our youth to bring in lifelong customers, if some of you remember Joe Camel. Unfortunately, for my constituents, there's little insight into algorithms big tech employs to take advantage of their sweeping access in our everyday lives. Nor do Hoosiers have adequate control over the amount of information collected or how it's used to tailor personal and curated content. You know, we had Truth in Lending. We had to take care of that many years ago. Building off the Communications and Technology Subcommittee hearing last week, which many of my colleagues here attended, it's clear this committee needs to get serious with our efforts to rein in big tech. Mr. Greenblatt, I think you would agree that there are positive aspects of social media. Whether it's checking in with family or friends, or for small businesses to expand their reach, there are healthy uses of social media. But it seems to me these tech companies realized early on that they sit on top of a gold mine of user information with virtually no guardrails to protect consumers. And as you detailed in your testimony, incendiary and controversial content is good for business. Throughout this hearing, we have acknowledged the harmful aspects of overexposure to hateful content. This has become a very much a bipartisan issue. In my opinion, we ought to consider proposals that stop a platform's ability to generate revenue off content that has been adjudicated to have harmed the well-being of its users. If platforms, Mr. Greenblatt, if platforms were limited in their ability to use algorithms to curate content for users, what would happen to social media companies? Would they still be profitable enough to stay in business?
Well, first of all, I would just say, Representative Pence, I agree with the analogy that you drew to big tobacco. I mean, speech may be different than cigarettes, but addictive products that the companies fail to manage, about which they obfuscate and lie to elected officials and to watchdogs, there's clearly a problem that requires government intervention. I wish it were different. Unfortunately, it is not the case. And I also agree that, like tobacco, social media can be used in moderation for fun. And Facebook and other services have connected people across cultures, across countries. There's a lot of value to that. But the way they have been exploited by extremists, the way they have been used to abuse, again, children and manipulate them in ways that have been described is indefensible. Now, the reality is these companies indeed are so big and are so profitable. I actually believe they could fix this problem today if they wanted to. Sure, it might hurt their margins a little bit as they made some capital investments, but if they have the resources, think about Facebook. It's 16 years old, and yet it has 3 billion users across the planet Earth. It has the most sophisticated advertising.
So in the
any
interest of
company.
time, you think that they could be profitable, they wouldn't necessarily go out of business?
Absolutely,
Thank
yes.
you, and Madam Chair, I yield back.